Today, I have Professor Gritt Klinkhammer, my dear colleague from the University of Bremen. Most welcome, Gritt. You are a professor in empirical study of religions and theory of religion at the University of Bremen. And the topic of today's talk is strategies for dealing with interreligious conflicts in school, experiences from Germany. So, as you know, IMS, we are a research institute which study the situation in Sweden, where we have now become, at the same time, one of Europe's most secular countries, and at the same time, the most multi-religious country in Europe. So we have this interaction between a secular state and a secular tradition and a secular authorities with a growing, increasingly multi-religious population. So we are trying to study the different interactions that come from this, the problems that arise, and the challenges that comes from this situation, and see how they can be fruitfully addressed. And for this, we need international experience, and this is why you are here, Gritt. So can you tell us a little bit just about your background?
Yeah, thank you very much at first for the invitation. I appreciate it very much. So I'm a sociologist of religion, and I'm working about my main focus is Islam, Islam in Germany, Islam in Europe. And at Bremen University, we have the special situation that we, as a non-denominational institute of the study of religion, we also educate teachers. So as teachers for religious education in school, because in Bremen it is not denominational determined, this education, but for all pupils who are in the class. So atheists, Buddhists, Muslims, and Christians. And so that's why we are doing this education. And this is why I'm related to these questions of schools and school debates on diversity and especially religious diversity. Yeah.
Yeah. And I should say that from a Swedish perspective, in Sweden, we only have this type of non-denominational religious education in school. So in Bremen, then you have the same system as we do here in Sweden.
Yeah.
Okay. So the structure, we have 1 hour now. The structure will be that you will give a presentation of about your research in this field or some topics from it. And then we will have a discussion, and then we'll open up for questions from the people who listen. And if you listen to this, you can post your questions in the Q&A function, where you just press the Q&A chat function and write your question. And I will read the questions from this function in the discussions afterwards. Okay, so please, Gritt, if you want to just
start my presentation, and the title of my presentation, as David already said, is Strategies on Dealing with Religion in School, Experiences from Germany. Can you see my presentation?
No, not now. If you just press the share screen function.
Okay, I did not. Sorry for that. I was too fast. Concentrated on my, I think it should be this. And
yes.
now, yes, you see something, but not what you should see. Now you should see only the first page.
Yeah, but
no, actually, you have to move it.
Okay, so I take the other one. Maybe this is the right one. So, is it now right?
We can also see your notes, but I suppose that's...
No, this is not what I want to have. So, okay, I try to... I try to change the displays. I have two displays here. Sorry for that. I thought I can do that but it's not possible, I think. So now it should.
So while you're doing this, I would say the background we had, oh, now it works.
It works.
Okay.
Yes, I think so. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, I said that the title, Strategies on Dealing with Religion in School, Experiences from Germany. So first I want to mark that the focus on religion is not really it's more a focus on Islam. This depends on the debates in Germany, because the debates almost about religious diversity almost all on Islam. So this is why I will in the further lecture talk especially on Islam, even if there are, of course, other religious, small religious groups next to the Christians. And so before I start with our project on, or what I want to present you from the project about religious diversity in school, and it's not about school religious education or education about religion or from religion, but about religion in school. So outside of these lectures or outside of the subject religion lessons. Before I come to this, I want to give a short, really very short overview about the situation in Germany. I think not all of you are so familiar with it. So just numbers here and distribution. You see in the here in the round in that we have already more than the half of the Germans are religiously have no ties any longer. So less than half of the inhabitants of Germany, or the Germans, are non-Christians, and only 46% of the inhabitants are members of Christian churches. You see here. I don't know if you see my cursor. Can you see that? So here you see the Christians. Here you see the non-religious or without memberships, and here the brown one, I think, is the Orthodox Christian, and the green ones are the Muslims. We say around 4%, but others guess around 5 or 6%. There are no clear numbers about that. And other religious memberships are 2%. So that are not so many. And here you see we have not only this diversity in the total number, but we have also the diversity in distribution. So the East German Länder or East German states, you see there are these green ones, is not Muslim ones. These are the majority is non-religious, without religious ties. And the others are Catholic, or the yellow one or the red one are with Christian ties. In the south you have more the Catholics, and in the north you have, these are the red ones, and in the yellow ones the Catholics, and the red ones Protestants. So we have a diversity, you can say. And we have this, I have some principles. Oh, sorry. We have, of course, this sozusagen these two Christian types. from the history on. So we have this cuius regio, eius religio, means that from the 17th century on, the ruler determines the confession of the people. And so we have this north and south divided in Catholic and Protestant Christians. And we have, in principle, of course, religious freedom here, as you know, I think, and the separation of church and state. The churches have a really far autonomous status, so that they can do their own things and decide their own things, their own working conditions and so on. I can't go too deeper into it. And we have the Muslims, for example, has not this status, but another one. And so we have religious education regulated by the constitutional law and is regular dominational subject in schools, so differently to yours. And religion as well as school education is a matter of the federal states. So the 16 federal states of Germany are dealing differently to this, and we will see this later too. Religion as well, I said this, since the 1980s, we have also Islamic religious education, ERE. Here, Islamic religious education has been introduced in pilot projects in all relevant federal states. So there are some we don't have something like that. So in the eastern states, there are almost no Muslims. And they are more in the middle of Germany and the south, and the west south and the west north. And we have, this is also good to know, we have regularly non-denominational schools. So all people or pupils are in one school from different denominations, and we have only around 15% of private schools, and these private schools are less denominational. They are more private schools for the elite, you can say. So if you can pay something, so you have a better education. So this is the structure in rough. Yeah. So then I want to give some examples of our typical conflicts we have. I guess, but I'm curious what you say later. I guess you know all these conflicts I now will list here. So we have the headscarves of teachers. It is a conflict since years. So it started in the end of the 19th when Turkish students, which were coming from in the 60s as guest workers and now are in the second, third, fourth generations here and are studying, mostly the female pupils are studying later at the university, and of course they also study to get teachers, become teachers at schools, and some of them wanted to wear headscarves, and then there were many cases and they were forbidden to do that. And in 2003, the first constitutional court decision came up, and then later in 2050 again, because there were some more things to fix for it and debated. And since 2015, it is forbidden to forbid in general to wear headscarves at schools, also for teachers. But unless it would disturb the school peace. So if you have too much debates and the pupils and the parents would be against it or so, and you fear as a school head that the school peace, it's an important thing in Germany, could be disturbed or is disturbed, then you can forbid it. Yeah. It's a bit strange. I think always when I tell this reasoning, so I'm really confused by myself about this. So the next is the prayer rooms. So there are many cases in the last 10 years also that pupils applied for special prayer rooms, and schools debate that, school heads, because they say all the others don't need a special room, and these pupils should not have, this Muslim pupils should not have special rooms. And of course, no school has enough rooms, so it's schools in regular schools in Germany, most of them are poor, and they can't give a room only for praying. But of course, and not in some regions it's possible, and sometimes they do, and they don't debate about it. But there are other cases, and there are also cases that pupils praying on the floor or at the schoolyards, especially when they have no praying room and they are forbidden to do that. The school heads say schools are neutral, they don't want to have this, and so it gives pressure for other Muslim pupils who don't want to pray. This is one of the debate. Then we have the gender co-educative schooling, so for sports, or of course for all lessons, and the whole class. But we have these debates about that, not to do that in sports and for class trips. So there are several, not only Muslim, but also, especially also Muslim parents who don't want to have their female pupils to do sports together with males, and to go on these class school trips because they fear that the genders could be connected too much. Then we have these questions about special celebration days of Muslims. So the Eid al-Fitr of Ramadan, or the Eid al-Adha in the end of the Hajj, and others. And but we have since several years, of course, the regular schools follow our Christian calendar. So at Easter and at Christian birthday, and so we have holidays for sure. And so of course Muslims are coming and asking for getting free for this special celebration days, and there are some contracts between the states and schools to get this. So at least or in most of the lenders, they have 3 days for celebrations they can use for Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, and Eid al-Adha. And okay, there are debates about halal food in school canteens. So even if they could eat vegetarian food or other things than pork, always there are debates about why shouldn't we offer also or only pork, it's a German thing and so on. So we have this debate. Then we have the debates about Ramadan and school exams. So if you have, as a Muslim, the time of Ramadan and you are fasting for around 29 or 30 days, so you are lacking of concentration maybe. And so, of course, they don't want to make school exams during this time. But there are, of course, many schools try to consider this, but they can't consider this for the whole month. This is sometimes not possible, and so there are debates about that. And there are also debates about, is it healthy for pupils to fast? Can we forbid it? And something like that. And there are debates about headscarves of very young pupils. So we have this sometimes not so only a third of all female Muslims are wearing headscarves around. It's a guess. So and in schools, the pupils, we have no masses of headscarf wearing pupils. But especially in Berlin, you have all of these, and also in basic schools from the 1st to the 4th class. So very young pupils, and there are debates also in Berlin from an initiative which is fighting for neutrality in school. To say we have to forbid this headscarf wearing for your very young pupils. Then we have this, what we call ostentative confession. This is a kind of, sometimes when pupils, Muslim pupils, don't want to give a handshake to females, or if they don't want to celebrate birthdays of comrades in the class then they say it's ostentative confession and it's too much. It's they should integrate and of course celebrate birthdays and so. And we have something which is called religious mobbing. In the last 3 years or so, this is a recent debate, especially also in Berlin. There are pupils, it's a bit debated how many these cases are really, who are forcing or seem to force other pupils, other Muslim pupils, also to follow the rules of really conservative Islam. So wear a headscarf if they don't, pray every day 5 times, and so on. Separating between the sexes and so. Okay, I only want to give this list, what is debated in Germany recently, and now I want to go to our project. So it's a project of a colleague of me, Eva Kengott, and me. Eva Kengott is a colleague of mine. She's at the Bremen University, and she is a specialist in didactics and schools. And so what we asked in the beginning is, how can we deal with these problems we heard of and our students will be confronted with in school when they leave university? And so we were looking for pedagogical introductions or something like that for that, or advisory books and brochures. And what we find in the end was, and what makes us curious, was that the German states made brochures on this subject. So they give state, so the ministries of the states of around 9, so more of the half of them make brochures about questions how to deal with this with these problems with religious diversity, with Islam in schools, and the ministry makes brochures of 20 to 100 pages long, and 9 of them, and we read them all. And in the first time we thought they are very, very different, and we can identify different types of dealing with this. And in the end, we thought they are really similar. And we divided them in 2 kinds of brochures, and I want to present you these 2 types, how the regulations on religious property in school is done by the ministries from the perspective of the ministry's policy. So how does the respective state policy deal with this? How does it position the school? What is the role of the school? What role does it give to religion in general? And what are the proposed solutions they give? So I present to you now these two directions, 2 trends, 2 main trends, we said. And there's one trend, it gives reference mainly to basic legal values. So it refers to these basic legal values, and it shows cases and in the frame of these legal values. So the cases are actually understood as a conflict of fundamental rights. So we see here time and again the first step towards extremism, radicalization, is seen as being Islamic or religious. So religion-related conflicts in schools are then not seen as a normal process of diversification of schools and of society, of course, but are placed in a context of radicalization and covered with the so-called security dispositive. So they start with problems, the discussion of headscarves in school, of praying rooms, of no handshakes, and it is going in one line with extremist behavior, anti-Semitic behavior, with violence, and so on. So yeah, it's for me it's a strange thing, or it's dangerous, but we can later talk about it. I will explain now more. The original fundamentally religion-friendly tone of our constitution is here undermined by the strengthened negotiation of religious claims. This is to the disadvantage of religious minorities who demand consideration for religious reasons, because when religion is the first step and they always see in being religious or a religious other, it's the first step into radicalization. So, and the third one is the focusing on legal certainty leads to deprofessionalization of educational staff and their approaches, because they always say this is allowed, this is forbid, so then we have this law or that law you can refer to, and you have to mention it in the during the lesson and to these pupils who said this or that. I will give an example at the end. So the fact that diversity conflicts offer learning opportunities is repeatedly emphasized in the brochures, but the legal guidelines actually have the effect of pushing religion aside rather than encouraging dialogue between people with different orientation. And then the fourth, with this, moreover, schools' internal institutional negotiation processes are weakened. This is because a strong legal reference seemingly relieves school staff of the need to explore solutions to specific diversity conflicts and specific contexts with pupils and their parents. Possible negotiation processes that could take place individually at schools are not expected in these brochures. So the second trend we called from bargaining to defense, so defense of any problems. So they are rather religion-friendly formulations. You find rather religious-friendly formulations and invitations to diversity in these kind of brochures, and they're however, too, focusing on problems and the warning of transition from religion to religious extremism. And we have also here the distribution of prescriptive knowledge. This is also in the other brochures we find this. We tell it recept knowledge. So if you have a recept, you go to the pharmacy and take some pills, and then you have the solution. So it's like, if you know this, not to give a handshake to a woman or something like that, if you are Orthodox Jewish or Muslim, then you have no problems any longer, something like that. So this distribution prescriptive formula knowledge through overviews you find there everywhere. What is Islam, how Muslims believe, and how to counter this. And this is still the mode of essentialization. So, and multiculturalism, so to take multiculturalism with awareness of danger, something like that. So there is nothing like openness for dialogue or contentious interaction. Of course, you should, of course, expect in school, because in order to teach pupils in how to manage diversity, in their classes and so on. And thus all weakens the pedagogical rule. So the other direction, so this legal rights direction, but also all these brochures do that. And we also, of course, think, and the schools, this at the last one, the schools seems almost unchangeable. So it's more a wall of defense than an open space for learning diversity. And in these brochures, and of course in our conclusion, we also, or as one conclusion, we also see this kind of ministry brochures are too abstract, and they need to have this formula knowledge, and they, of course, always focusing on problems and going deeper into the legal perspective of such problems and so on. And so we, of course, thought about this. This is not a good idea to make such brochures. They are going into strange directions. And I give you some one case I want to discuss or show and go deeper into it. And maybe we have time later to discuss also this case more. So we have this case, Samim, from the Saxonia ministry. So it takes it as an example. So in the 8th grade class, fundamental rights are discussed, including freedom of religion. This was the case, yes. Samim speaks up and says that there is only one true religion, Islam. He says that he rejects all other religions and that their members are kuffar, unbelievers. There were also only kuffar in his class, but he says, but you can't be friends with kuffar because then you would become one of them and go to hell. So as the Saxonia ministry comments or recommends the teacher's action is, for example, irrespective of the criminal law assessment. So the first is to go into criminalization of this words, the pupil said. School administrators and teachers are obliged to take action in the present case, as there could be a risk of radicalization of the pupil exist, as the statements made by Samim points to Salafist ideas. And in the footnote, I don't want to go too deep into it, is explained what Salafism is. So this is a special generation of Muslims or a special movement of Muslims, and this, what he has said here, is so at least comes from them. And what the ministry also recommends is to prove if it is if he is a Salafist, if he tell to the go to the parents, go to the I don't know, the Jugendamt, the office, the regular office for the young people the state cares for, and when the parents can't care for, so they should involved in this case, and that's all. Yeah, so I want to give a description of the case, how the ministry dealt with it here too. So he says it's religious extremism. So this is clear for this ministry. But we want to, or I want to mention that at first it's exclusivism. So it's not extremism. So of course we have strengths, Christianity, who also said we are the only one. Yes, of course, and many of religious groups say that, and one's own religion is considered the only one that brings salvation. So the second thing is here the preventive work. So they start, the ministry recommends the teachers should start preventive work, going to the teachers, going to special help for this, and to make workshops in school or in the class for preventive work. First, you can say it's too late. If this is really an Salafist talk of this pupil. And the second is, of course you have the problem of stigmatization. If you think about it, I don't know if someone of you is a teacher, if you imagine the class, you can't then do this preventive work and not stigmatize this special pupil. Then you have the legal perspective. So of course you have the freedom of religion. These are it's not against this, to say that. And you have the religious historical perspective and the classification of the conflict. This is Salafism. I would problematize. And I now say why. So questions we think should be developed are the following. So I make it more short. In what context does a religious conflict take place? So you have here 8th grade class. So these are pupils in puberty, and they are learning about which dynamics, social, psychological dynamics, and so on. Which perspectives should be included in the analysis and assessments? So what should really do you need more to know, or should you have maybe you should not do preventive work against extremism, but maybe for the class you should do something that the class will be a better group. So maybe he experienced some mobbing or something like that. We don't know. We don't know from the case. Yeah, the case don't refer to something like that. Which religious historical backgrounds could play a role. So you don't need to end at Salafists. You can also you see also other traditions, and of course you could also give answers that there are also other traditions in Islam, not only this tradition. And you have, is it really a religious conflict? I said it already. So could there be a religionization of a deeper or of this conflict? Yes. Okay, and should someone outside or inside the school be involved? So we don't know context about this this speech of the pupil. So then I want to go to something we try to figure out in a graph, what is needed to consider for such cases of problems, or for understanding and handling of such cases, not only Samim, but all cases I listed before. And we made this kind of picture. So we have Samim or any other case. And of course, we think we have to ask this or consider different aspects. So the religious freedom, of course, aspects. So of course, they can have other perspectives. They should have other perspectives on religion and what is their religion. Of course, they should think at first it is true, yeah? And it has some consequences when you think it is true. So you should consider aspects of developmental psychology. So these are youth, they are developing, so these are not adults. So you have dynamics in the class, group dynamics. It's 8th grade, so for this example, of course, you have others. We think aspects of history of religion are involved, and you should refer to it. I think it can explain something, and it can show alternatives. Maybe in the case of Samim, you find alternative, and you can find alternatives to that. You can say the books, so religious people of the books of the Bible are also comrades to the Muslims, and of course they are telling also the truth. And you have society, social positions, so you don't know what happens to Samim outside of school and also inside of school. Has he experienced some discrimination or whatever? Yeah, and then of course you should consider the family background. What is that? And then maybe there for each individual case, there are other things. So these means the point. So we don't think that these you need always all, and maybe there are also other aspects which are to consider in those conflicts. So I'm finishing here. I'm not sure if I should really make up this instead of a conclusion. So I give it at really, really short. So I thought we could also think about what aims and tasks means dealing with religious plurality in a liberal pluralistic state. And I want to mention and refer to McClure and the Canadian colleagues, McClure and Taylor. They talked about laicism and those kind of problems in schools, and laicism as a necessary tool for equal respect and each individual and the freedom of conscience. This means not neutrality, but also for this, they say, is necessary that there are exceptions for fairness and equalization. And just equalizing justice. So I mentioned the conflict about the celebrations days, or about Ramadan and others. So of course we have these our calendar, our Christian calendar, and even if the schools are almost neutral, with this calendar they can't be neutral. And of course we have all a history, and this history is the Christian history, and we are not in all things neutral, and we can't, and we don't want to change the calendar totally. So it could be necessary for fairness and equalizing justice. And this is one finishing statement I brought with me. The exemptions requirements should not impose functional constraints. So there are borders of and limits of exceptions, of course. And this is the quotation here about the exemption requirement should not impose functional constraints or excessive costs, obstruct the purposes of the institution, or the achievement of an important legislative objective, or significantly restrict the rights and freedoms of others. These McClure and Taylor said is the limit of the limit of making is exceptions. Thank you for your patience and attention. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gritt, for this very interesting presentation. I have a couple of comments, and then we have a couple of questions from the Q&A that I will ask you. Okay. We have like 12 minutes left. So let me just sort of summarize what I hear in this presentation. So you have studied sort of instructive legal or advisory documents of how to deal with these conflicts relating to religion, or in particular then Muslim pupils in schools. And you land in this sort of recommendation. You show, your analysis shows the problems of securitization, I suppose, or a too legal focus on these situations. And you pinpoint that if you have too much of a legal approach to pupils' situation and these conflicts in school, what happens is that the professional role of the teacher, which is to be reflective and to take the age and the social situation and the knowledge level and all kinds of different things into account when dealing with complex young people. This, instead of being professional teachers and educators, the teachers become this sort of it becomes like a squared situation where you just have to follow and box people into different categories like this. So it sort of ruins the legal securitization, ruins the professionalism of the school. This is one of the main points.
This is one of the main points, yes. And
it reminds me actually from a whole different field. You know, when there are, I know that when there are custody conflicts between parents. I mean, if you have two parents fighting over custody over their kids, there's this, this is what I've heard from social workers. There's this insight among social workers that if it becomes a legal matter, then the possibility to make a sort of constructive solution is already over. It needs to be solved before, you know, so you, with negotiations and give and take and find sort of organic, flexible solutions, as soon as it becomes a legal matter and goes to court, then that opportunity is sort of closed. And this, from what I gather from your presentation, is what happens when religion in school becomes a matter of legal regulations instead of pedagogical professionalism and care.
yes.
So then my first question then is, I suppose the politicians or the teachers or school leaders who have driven this kind of securitization policy, because you show that there used to be a religion-friendly type of language in these documents, and it has changed to this securitization approach. And is that because they felt that there's some kind of tipping point that has been reached? How would they themselves argue for this, for changing this policy, or
yeah,
what would they say?
So what I wanted to say is that there are two types of brochures. The one is focusing more of the legal aspects, and they are starting with the legal aspects. So they don't take this religion-friendly formulations. But there are the other type, the second one, which is more they try to be more integrative, and they start with a religion-friendly tone, but they end up also in this legal perspective, but this is not. Of course, they change then, and the teachers can read that. But what they are doing is to say, to make this reset knowledge, this formula knowledge, so this essentialization, to say, this is that, and Islam is that, and do so, and when you do this in this way, then you are okay, and then you know, and they don't. They also here's more the problem. Of course, the transition from the normal Muslim to the extremist Muslim. So you have not clear cut. So, and they always say this, you have not this clear cut. So the teacher is always have the attention, or is asked to have this attention. So be aware, it could be extremism, but maybe not from the first day on, but it could go there. And the second one is this formula knowledge, which does not help. In the end, we would say, we was wondering, why does the ministry does something like that? They don't need to do that. So there are many school institutes who give education for teachers, and they could do, and they do, but all these debates in the public forced. I think the ministries were forced to do so, and they tried. And this is at least what we were studying now, and what we learned from it. You can't do it in this way, not in this way and not in that way. So you need other ways to other approaches. And what the problem is, that if you are a teacher, so a state worker, so Yeah, if you are a teacher, you have to refer also to these ministry papers of the ministry. Yeah, you can't ignore it, and so this is not so easy. So you are not. So the teachers are they tend to be nervous about subjects like this, yeah, and not reluctant and say, okay, we have a look, and the ministry is good with us. So no, they don't good with them. They ask them to look at the legal possibilities. Yeah, what could they? Yeah, what should they do?
Let me now put some questions, and please answer briefly so we can have time.
Yes.
We only have a couple of minutes left. But one first question is, are there any studies which have evaluated this type of school policies? I mean, have you made interviews with pupils and parents and seen what works? Maybe it works to have a securitization policy, or can you show this empirically, whether it works or not?
Mm-hmm. No, there is a this is something what my colleague and me want to do, but it's not so easy to get to these conflicts, and especially when this was a good practice. So you don't know about it when it is a good practice. You only get to know it if it clashes. And of course, we have several cases we know or collect which clashes, but we have almost no good practices. We are thinking about good practice and discussing it with teachers, but yeah. And there's now 2 days or 5 days ago or so, I got a hint to a book which has been published for Berlin. I think a doctorate, a PhD, who has done something in Berlin, but also about problems and not about good practice. Yeah.
So next question. You said that it's important to differentiate between exclusivism and extremism. But isn't it true that exclusivism also is the first step that leads to extremism?
Yes, this depends how do you define extremism? Because extremism, I think it's only interesting for security if they are violent, if it is violently. And but of course we have non-violent extremism, something like exclusivism in our societies. So groups who want to, who are living really exclusive, who are thinking about their own truths. They don't want to have their pupils in lessons of biology or something like that. They do because here in Germany is a duty to send your pupils to school. No homeschooling is allowed, so they need to, but they try to be distant in distance to all other activities, and they are allowed to. So it's not that I appreciate it, but this shows it's from the criminal aspects. There's no action needed, and you can't do this anything. But from a pedagogical point of view, I think we need to have an approach, or to search for approaches, or of course also to reach such pupils or children from such parents who are thinking in this time. And of course we need an approach to Samin, but I don't think that we need a legal approach to him. Yeah, then he's lost. We have lost him already then. Yeah.
Okay, a last question. Please answer very briefly. You spoke about debates concerning a number of conflicts, headscarves, prayer rooms, gender separation, and so on. Who are the ones having these debates? Are these among politicians or journalists, or is it also within the Muslim communities?
It's not so much inside the Muslim communities. They are forced to talk about. There are teachers. There are there some movements who want to take out Islam as a whole. Yeah, so I think most of them are more right-wing, but not all of them, of course, not all, but it's pushing from this side, or the debates has been pushed from this side too. And we have a big debate, or not big enough, a debate about schools and how much will we invest in our teaching in our schools, and that it's too less, and that it is a problem of this. And so there's another kind of or another voice who pushes such debates, and of course the media is also there, and then the politics come in. So because of course they don't want to neglect this and give their own voice.
There are so many questions, but we only have 1 hour. So Professor Dr. Gritt Klinkhammer from University of Bremen, thank you so much for taking the time to present your research at this IMS webinar. It was very interesting, and we hope to see you again here in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. So
thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.